Hello, my name is Lauren. I'm a garden educator with the Cornucopia Project. Everything I'm eating my lunch today started with plants. Plants are really important. We count on plants every day of our lives, not only for the foods that we eat, but also for the buildings that we live in. Plants also help us get clothes. The fibers that make our clothes come from plants. Cotton is a plant. We also use these fibers to make other things that we use every day, like pillows. And even this lampshade. This Star Wars puzzle right behind me on the wall, that's made out of plant fibers too. Let's take a look at some of the seedlings that are growing for our school garden. This is a tomato plant. Here's the seed packet that the seeds came in. This tomato seedling has 2 sets of leaves. The first set of leaves are these oval-shaped leaves. These leaves come from the middle of the seed, and there's a special name for them. It's called cotyledon. Cotyledon leaves give the plant energy to grow its first true set of leaves, which will look like all of the rest of the leaves that grow on this plant. These seedlings will turn into spinach plants. They also have 2 sets of leaves and have been growing for about 2 weeks. That's what the seeds look like. These are lettuce plants. They're different colors because there are a few different kinds of lettuces growing here. The seeds are so tiny. These are broccoli plants. These are Brussels sprout seedlings. This is a kale plant. These are sweet peppers, not the spicy kind. Next, I'll bring you out into the garden and show you how to plant radishes. We can plant radishes outside now because they don't mind the cold weather as much as the other plants like peppers and tomatoes do. When these radishes are ready to be harvested, they'll be about the size of a golf ball, but the seeds are very small. The instructions on the packet say to plant them 1/2 inch deep. The seeds should be 1 inch apart. I'm moving the soil around so that it's even. What's this? This is a worm. Come look. This is an earthworm in our garden. It's very cold today, so it's moving very slowly. It's looking for a way to get back down in the soil. Let's help it. Let's get back to planting these radishes. My row is 1/2 inch deep, and come in closer so you can see that the seeds I'm putting in 1 inch apart. I'll cover the seeds with soil. And gently pat it down. But I'm not done yet. Even though this soil is a little bit wet from the rain yesterday, I will need to water it. Up next, I'll show you how to do the bean experiment. We're going to have a bean sprout race. All you need is a plastic bag, a paper towel, some water to get the paper towel wet, and some dried beans. So you have to go on a scavenger hunt at home in your pantry and see what dried beans you can find. A bean is actually a seed. So you want to use beans that were dried because beans that are in a can have been cooked at a high temperature and won't sprout anymore. I'll show you the beans that I found in my pantry. This one is a garbanzo bean. Some people call them chickpeas, and it's what people use to make hummus. This is another one of my favorite beans. Oh, I almost dropped it. This is a black bean. You see the little white dot on it? I also have a black-eyed pea. It's called a pea. Lots of people in the world call beans peas. This one is a nice reddish brown color. This is an azuki bean. It has that white stripe on it. So I have 4 different kinds of beans. I'm going to sprout them all inside of this plastic bag. Let's see which one grows the fastest and the biggest. And we'll have a race. So I'm putting my paper towel into the bag. Like that. And then I have a Sharpie. This is a permanent marker because I'm going to mark off some measurements on this so I can track the growth. You want to use a Sharpie and ask a parent for help so you don't get permanent marker somewhere you shouldn't. We're not using washable marker because this bag is going to be wet from the water that we are using to keep our seeds wet. The seeds need to be wet in order to sprout. And if you use a washable marker, then it'll just wash your measurements off. So I got my marker and I have a ruler. I'm going to mark off 1 inch from the bottom of my bag, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, and 5 inches, and then I'll run out of space. So I'll show you how I do that. Just carefully line up the bottom of the ruler with the bottom of the bag. And with my marker, put a line where the 1 inch hits and write 1. And make another line at 2, another at 3, another at 4, another at 5, and then I've run out of space and 6 is up at the top. Your bag might be a different size. Just mark it however you can. You see? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to get the paper towel wet. I'm going to use this medicine dropper just so I don't get water on my computer, but you can just pour water in carefully. You can use a spoon maybe. Okay. And then I'll put the beans in. Since I have the number 1 starting here, in order to measure an inch, I'll have to put the beans at the very bottom of the bag because the bottom of the bag is 0. Get this. First, in goes the black bean. I'll just scoot it over a little bit. And second, the garbanzo bean. And I'll scoot that one over a little bit. There we go. Third, adzuki bean. It's a pretty good spot. And fourth is the black-eyed pea. I'll just move it over a little so they're equally spaced in the bag. Now my job to be a good scientist and make sure that my beans sprout will be to keep this environment inside of this bag wet because these seeds need moisture to sprout. And I'll have to keep it warm. So just like in springtime, the seeds know that it's time to start growing because the soil is being warmed up by the sun. So I want to keep this environment warm to trick these beans, even though they're in my house, into thinking they're outside and it's springtime and it's time for them to grow. I might put it near my heater or somewhere near my wood stove where it's not going to get so hot that they'll cook. And I'll make sure that this paper towel stays wet. Thanks for spending time with me today to learn about plants. Remember to get started on your bean growth experiment. Until I see you again, I hope that you'll be asking questions about what you're eating and wondering, what plant did this come from? See you next week.